Mr. President Barack Obama, welcome to the David Glenn Show. How are you?
David, it's great to be on.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on a day like this with the sports fans of North Carolina and beyond. It was not too long ago that you awarded our late, great Dean Smith with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Remind us why he was such a good fit in your eyes for such a high civilian honor.
Well, this is the highest civilian honor that we give. And, it's given to people from all different fields who exemplify the best in America. And Dean Smith met that criteria hands down. It wasn't just his excellence on the court. It wasn't just the championships he won and the incredible record of wins and the innovations that he developed on the court, but it was how his character showed off the court as well. Somebody who integrated North Carolina and ACC basketball, somebody who was willing to stand up for what was right with respect to his players and his fellow citizens in North Carolina. And he always did it with grace and with dignity and graciousness. He was somebody who, I think, exemplified what coaching should be all about, and I think it's fair to say created that legacy of Tar Heels basketball that continues to this day.
You're not only a fan of basketball, you like to play some basketball. So can we count on the President of the United States to say, point at the man who gave him a great pass leading to an easy basket the way Dean Smith taught the Tar Heels? Or, are you incorporating the four corners offense or other innovations into your basketball routine?
Well, but you make a great point. The idea of acknowledging the passer.
Yeah.
The idea of huddling at the free throw line. Those may seem like routine habits now, but that wasn't always the case. And the imprint that he placed on the culture of the game and teaching folks how to play like a team, that still reflects itself in some of the best basketball around. We hosted the San Antonio Spurs here a while back for last year's championship, and talked to Coach Popovich, and he talked about doing things the right way and how the NBA is starting to recognize once again how to play like a team, and that's going to be more successful than just isolation basketball. Well, that's part of the imprint that Dean Smith put on the game. Not to mention, let's face it, the guy sent my Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. Let's be very clear about that. I'm a little biased here because he taught the greatest player in history some basic fundamentals that served him well.
President Barack Obama is joining us on the David Glenn Show. I don't know if this is a great parallel between politics and sports, but there are a lot of cynics about, especially today, the ability to both win a lot of games, win championships, compete for great things, while, as you said, doing things the right way. And that seems to be a fundamental part of Dean Smith's legacy, although I guess he was coaching at UNC, already by the time you were born. Just tell us how you came to learn about more than wins from afar, and how you've seen that play out in other competitive environments. It's one thing to win, it's another thing to win with integrity.
Well, you see certain programs that have that, right? They're folks who are winners, but generally speaking, you don't get a sense that you'd necessarily want your kid playing there. And then you've got places where you'd have confidence as a parent, my kid's going to be all right here.
Yeah.
And I think Dean Smith was one of those people who, if I was a parent and my son played basketball, I'd say, that's somebody I want to learn from, because I'd have confidence that he wasn't just learning X's and O's. And the graduation rate that existed at North Carolina while Dean Smith was the coach is a testament to that. It indicates the degree to which there was a certain way of doing things that are right. And there are other programs like that. Coach K at Duke, I think, established a culture like that. But Coach K would be the first to acknowledge that a lot of that he learned not just from Bobby Knight, but also from watching Dean Smith operate in the ACC.
President Barack Obama joining us on the David Glenn Show. Speaking of those Duke guys, are you worried about Reggie Love's new book coming out? Because we've already heard about one time he forgot your briefcase and you had to reprimand him for that. There's probably other times he gave you great passes and you didn't point in his direction to recognize the pass. Are you? I mean, you have pretty thick skin given your job description, I know. But are you worried?
I got to admit that Reggie sent me an early copy. I looked it over. It's an easy read and it's a fun read.
All right.
And it's a very sweet book. I mean, it actually talks about him as a young man trying to find his way and kind of blends together lessons he learned about sports, lessons that he learned on the campaign trail, and how those all become lessons of life. He did a nice job on it. I give him a lot of credit, and I'm glad to see that he's doing so well.
Now, since you're joining us statewide to honor the late, great Dean Smith, would you also like to take a poke at another iconic figure, Michael Jordan? We learned from David Axelrod recently that Michael Jordan misspelled your name in an autograph while trying to help David Axelrod out.
You know what? Michael will always have a place in my heart. The joy that he gave all of Chicago. And he was actually an early supporter. I think I may have been the first, at least publicly acknowledged contribution that he ever made politically, because Michael was pretty notoriously non-political. And we've had a chance to get to know each other, and he's been a supporter. He talks trash on the golf course. I understand, even though he has never played with me, he was running down my game, and he's a pretty hyper competitive guy, and obviously somebody wasn't giving him the proper spelling of my name, but I'm going to forgive him for all of that because I've got 6 championship memories that will never go away.
Last thing for the President of the United States, Barack Obama. I think the Secret Service is giving me a dirty look, so I better let you go. One of the ways we've described Dean Smith today is that he was not only one of the best at what he did for a living, he's even more celebrated for who he was as a person. You're in an awful lot of different arenas. How rare is that combination? I mean, I don't know today in human history or otherwise. It just seems like two things that are awfully difficult to find in the same person.
I think you're right. So often we have this myth that to get to the top, you got to be cutthroat. I tell you, to get to the top, you have to be disciplined. You have to work harder than anybody else. You've got to be focused. You've got to demand excellence. But you can also treat people with respect. You can also uphold the rules of the game. You can also build a team with character. You can also look out for people and be courteous and be kind and be supportive. And that's what Dean Smith teaches all of us. You've got to be ruthless with yourself in terms of expecting a lot out of yourself. You've got to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices, and you've got to be honest and self-critical about where you need to get better. My understanding, listening to some of his former players, it wasn't like he wasn't shouting at them,
right,
both during practice and during games. But the fact that they all loved him tells you that he was trying to just get them to be the best players they could be and the best people they could be. And that's a good lesson for all of us at a time when people think that cutting corners is what's required to get ahead. My experience tells me that's not the case. You can do it the right way, and ultimately that kind of success is going to be more long lasting. And Dean Smith will go down as one of the greatest coaches in sports, period, precisely because he did it the right way. And so, it's a great loss for us. We, our hearts go out to not just his family, but to everybody who came to love him.
Mr. President, I know you're like in between meetings with international heads of state, so we will thank you. Perfectly timed visit in honor of Dean Smith on our statewide David Glenn show here in North Carolina. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it, and it's wonderful to talk to the folks in North Carolina. I always say I love the state of North Carolina, love the people of North Carolina. Even the folks who don't support me down there are nice to me, and that's. And
you're not really politicking right now, right? Because it's not like we can vote for you again.
Yeah, I've run my last campaign. so you know that when I say I like North Carolina, I actually believe it.
Well done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Bye-bye.
You got it.